Ever feel like your mind is just all over the place? Like constantly pulled in a million different directions.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
Well, you're not alone. It turns out there's this ancient Buddhist teaching called Satipatthana.
Satipana.
Yeah, it's often translated as frames of reference, and it really gets into that monkey mind problem.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of like mental fitness, but backed up with centuries of wisdom.
I like the sound of that. So where do we start with this Satipana thing?
Well, today we're using The Winds to Awakening from dhammatalks.org as our guide.
Okay, cool. I'm ready to dive in. What's the main idea here?
The really interesting thing about Satipatthana is that it's not just about what you focus on.
Okay.
It's also about how you're paying attention to that thing.
It's not just what, but how.
Exactly. And the word itself refers to both the object of focus and the focused awareness.
That's pretty cool.
It is. It's like, say you're using a camera. The same scene could look completely different depending on the lens you use, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like a wide angle versus a zoom lens.
Exactly. And in this system, we have 4 main lenses, or frames of reference.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are they?
They are body, feelings, mind, and mental qualities.
So like the whole spectrum of human experience.
Exactly. And the text really stresses examining each of these in and of itself.
In and of itself. What does that even mean?
It means we're observing these things directly, without getting caught up in our usual judgments or stories.
Ah, I see. So like a pure observation.
Yeah, like that. The source uses this great analogy. Imagine holding an object in your hand. You might feel other things brushing against you, but your focus stays steady on the object.
Okay, yeah, I get that. So it's about cultivating that unwavering attention.
Yes. And through that attention, we can start to develop beneficial mental qualities. These are called Dhammas in the Buddhist teachings.
Dhammas. So we're talking about like positive thinking now.
It's way more dynamic than just thinking positive. We're talking about a serious mental workout.
Okay, a mental workout. Tell me more.
It's about weakening those mental habits that cause us suffering. Things like distraction and anger.
Right, those are definitely not helpful.
And then it's about strengthening those qualities that bring us peace and clarity, like focus and equanimity.
I like where this is going. So how does this mental workout actually happen?
Well, like any good workout, there are stages, 3 stages actually.
Only stages. All right, lay it on me.
And the text uses the body as our first example to break it down.
The body makes sense. It's something we all have.
Exactly. So stage 1 is all about establishing that frame of reference, getting familiar with it.
Okay, getting familiar with our body, what does that look like?
The text talks about remaining focused on the body. And there's a specific word they use, anupassan.
Anupassan, huh?
Yeah, it means keeping track of the body. So it's not just passively observing, it's about actively paying attention.
Right, so there's real effort involved. You're locked in.
Exactly. And the text says there are 3 key qualities that makes this possible.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's hear them.
Being ardent, alert, and mindful.
Ardent, alert, mindful. Got it.
But they're not just buzzwords. These describe this synergy of mental effort and sharp awareness.
Ooh, I like that. Sounds powerful.
It is. It's like this mental power trio. And this actually ties into a lot of the modern mindfulness practices people might already be familiar with. Things like mental noting.
Mental noting.
Yeah, mindfulness is that remembering to note things.
Okay.
Alertness is that quick recognition of what's popping up in your awareness. And then ardency is sticking with it and getting more precise with each observation.
I see those connections.
You see the same thing in body scanning, too. Mindfulness is the actual scanning process. Alertness is that sensitivity to each sensation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And even in good old breath meditation, we see it. Mindfulness is staying with the breath.
Right.
Alertness is noticing all the subtle qualities of breathing in and out. And then ardency shows up in how we move through different stages of training, like feeling the whole body with the breath or calming the breath down.
Wow, those are some great connections. So we've established our frame, we're getting familiar with the body. What's next?
Well, once we've established the frame, we move on to stage 2. This is called developing the frame.
Okay, we've hit the mental gym, built some foundational strength. What does developing the frame look like?
This is where we start to observe the arising and passing away of, well, everything. Not just the body, but also feelings, thoughts, and even those mental qualities we're working on.
So like how everything is interconnected, like you feel a tightness in your chest and suddenly a whole bunch of anxious thoughts appear?
You got it. It's about becoming a detective of your inner world, noticing those patterns and how they all relate.
That sounds fascinating.
It is. But it's not just passively observing, right? It's about learning to skillfully work with those patterns.
You're exactly right. The text even makes this analogy to cooking. We learn about our minds by skillfully experimenting with them, not just by reading about them.
That makes a lot of sense. So instead of just reading a cookbook, we need to get in the kitchen and get our hands dirty.
Exactly. For example, the text talks about developing equanimity. First, you just notice when it's there or not. Then you get skillful at bringing it about and making it stronger.
So it's like you're a novice cook at first, but you keep practicing and experimenting until you become a master chef. And you're saying that applies to our mental states too.
Precisely. It's about moving beyond simple awareness into skillfully manipulating our minds. Learning to guide your inner experience with more and more precision.
Okay, I could see why you call this a mental workout. So what about this third stage, that culminating equipoise thing?
Now that's where things get really interesting and maybe a little mysterious. It's about reaching a state of perception that the text calls emptiness. Freedom from clinging to those fixed ideas and stories we make about ourselves and the world.
Okay, emptiness. That sounds deep. I have a feeling it's not just about deciding to let go of everything.
No, not at all. It's about cultivating a deep understanding of the true nature of things. And that comes from working through stages 1 and 2.
So there are no shortcuts to blissful detachment, huh? Got to put in the work.
Exactly. But we can dive deeper into that in the next segment.
All right, listeners, we've laid the groundwork. We've got our 4 frames of reference, our 3 stages of training. Things are about to get real interesting, so don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back, deep divers. So last time, we got a pretty good intro to Satpaina.
Yeah, those frames of reference for, training our minds.
Exactly. And I'm really curious to see how those stages of training, how they actually play out.
Well, let's jump back into stage 2, where we're really working with the frame we've established.
Okay, so we've hit the gym, build up some strength. What's next? What's this developing the frame all about?
So in stage 2, we start observing this arising and passing away of, well, everything, not just in the body, but, feelings, thoughts, and even those mental qualities we're trying to cultivate.
So everything's kind of in this constant flow. Like we're noticing not just, oh, there's a thought, but, oh, that thought led to like this whole wave of tension in my body.
Yeah, exactly. And to really get this, the text uses breathing as an example.
Breathing. Okay, that makes sense. It's something we all do, right?
Right. So say you've chosen the body as your frame of reference. You're focusing on it, and you're going to notice each breath arising and passing away. But it's not just, oh, I'm breathing. It's more like really feeling those subtle sensations of each inhale and exhale.
It's funny you say that because just yesterday, I was feeling super anxious, and I realized, like, I was barely breathing, all shallow, and my chest felt so tight.
That's a perfect example of how paying attention to the breath can, show you so much about your inner state. And once you start to see those patterns, the connections between breath, body, feelings, and thoughts, well, that's where the magic happens.
It's almost like becoming a scientist of your own experience. Gathering data, figuring out how everything works.
Exactly. And with that understanding, comes this ability to work skillfully with your mind. You learn to respond to challenges better. And the text is really clear. It's not just about passively watching your mental states.
So there's more to it than just watching. What else is there?
It's about learning to manipulate them.
Manipulate? Hold on, isn't that a bit strong? Like, are we trying to control everything now?
That's a great question, and it's important to really get what the text is saying here. It's not about forcing things or suppressing emotions. Think of it more like learning a new skill, like say playing the piano. You don't just sit down and bam, you're playing Mozart flawlessly, right? You got to practice, experiment, you make mistakes along the way.
Okay, so we're approaching our mental states with that same curiosity and willingness to, try things out. We're not trying to be dictators of our minds, but more like, skilled conductors, I guess?
There you go. That's a great way to put it. And the text even offers some specific ways to do this. Like when you notice some unskillful mental state, something like distraction or agitation, see if you can manipulate it. Can you shift focus, change the intensity of the feeling? It's about figuring out what works for you.
Oh, that's cool. It's almost like we're testing our mental flexibility. Like, how much bandwidth do we have?
And the more you practice, the more refined your skills get. Maybe you start by noticing those big distractions, but over time, you'll see those subtler, sneakier ones. It's like upgrading your mental software.
Makes total sense. And this really shows how important patience and self-compassion are in this process. We're not going to become mental ninjas overnight, right?
You got it. It's a journey, a process of discovery and refinement. And eventually, this journey leads to stage 3, that culminating equipoise we mentioned.
All right, let's talk about this stage 3. You said earlier it has to do with that emptiness idea. But before we get into that, can we clarify what that even means?
You bet. It's one of those terms that gets tossed around a lot, but can be tricky to grasp. Here, in this context, emptiness isn't about nothing mattering or life being meaningless. It's more about understanding that everything is impermanent and interconnected, and that, our suffering comes from clinging to things as if they were solid and lasting.
So it's like realizing we're not as solid and separate as we think we are. We're part of this ever-changing flow of experience.
That's it. And when you start seeing things like this, that grip of those fixed ideas and stories about yourself and the world, it starts to loosen up. You get less attached to what you can't control, and it opens up a whole new way of experiencing life.
Wow, that's a pretty big shift in perspective. So how does this emptiness thing connect with, that whole mental fitness idea?
Well, think about it. We waste so much mental energy clinging to stuff we can't control, worrying about the past, obsessing over the future, resisting change. Emptiness is like hitting the reset button, freeing up all that energy for what truly matters. Being present, connecting with others, living a life that's, aligned with our values.
So it's not just about feeling calm and peaceful. It's about having those mental resources available to really engage with life in a skillful and meaningful way.
Exactly. And that's where the real power of Sakapana is. It's not just about escaping from suffering. It's about equipping ourselves to face life's challenges with wisdom and compassion.
I'm starting to get how these seemingly simple practices, like paying attention to your breath, noticing thoughts and feelings, can have such a huge impact.
And don't forget, the text actually says even practicing these techniques for a short time, even a week, can have significant results.
That's pretty encouraging. It makes me wonder what kind of transformations would be possible if we really committed to this path.
That's a great question, and it's something worth exploring. In fact, in our last segment, we'll dive into some specific examples from the text that show just how powerful these teachings can be.
Okay, listeners, don't go anywhere. We're going to uncover the real-world benefits of this ancient wisdom. You won't want to miss it.
Okay, deep divers, we are back for our final deep dive into Satipatthana,
Those Buddhist frames of reference for training the mind.
That's it. Last time, we were getting into some pretty deep stuff, like that concept of emptiness.
Yeah, that can be a tricky one.
It can, but I'm really interested to see how all this, plays out in real life, Well, one of the most powerful examples the text gives is the practice of contemplating the body.
Okay, wait, hold on. Contemplating the body. I'm already feeling a little,
Yeah, no, it sounds like we're about to launch into another lecture on body image, but trust me.
Okay.
This is different.
All right, you got my attention. What's so different about it?
It's about seeing the body, any body, with this really clear and compassionate awareness. The text wants us to see past those judgments we make about beauty and attractiveness,
So ditch the rose-colored glasses and see things as they are.
Exactly. And this practice can be really helpful for anyone who struggles with body image stuff. When we stop comparing ourselves to these airbrushed ideas, we can start to appreciate our bodies for what they are. These incredible vessels that carry us through life.
I love that. It's like shifting from judgment to acceptance, even gratitude, I guess. But the text takes it even further, right?
You're right. It says this practice of really seeing the body clearly can actually help us break free from lust and desire.
Whoa. Okay, now I'm really interested. How does that work?
Well, when we get all caught up in desire and craving, we're usually focused on this really superficial and idealized version of the body. We're not seeing the whole picture,
Right.
But when we can look deeper, see the reality, flesh and bones and all that, those cravings can start to loosen their grip.
It's like the text is saying, don't be fooled by the shiny packaging. Look at what's really inside, which might not be so glamorous.
Exactly. And it can be incredibly freeing. You realize all those external things we chase after, they don't actually hold the power we think they do.
It's like all that glitters is not gold. Appearances can be so deceiving, but this practice, it helps us see beyond the illusion.
And the text keeps going with this. It even talks about contemplating the body in terms of the elements, earth, water, fire, and air.
Oh, wow, elements. That reminds me of Ayurveda. Is there a connection there?
Absolutely. Lots of wisdom traditions use this idea of seeing the body as made up of these elements. And it's not just some abstract idea. It's a powerful way to deconstruct that feeling of a solid self that we cling to so tightly.
It's like realizing we're not as fixed and unchanging as we think we are, that we're in constant flux, like the elements themselves.
That's a great way to put it. And that realization, it can be humbling, but also really freeing.
Humbling because, we're not the center of the universe after all. And freeing because we don't have to try and control everything.
And that brings us full circle back to that culminating equipoise. Remember, that freedom from clinging and fabrication, all these practices are leading us there, helping us to wake up to reality.
Something that stood out to me in the text was how it emphasized that when we cultivate our own mental balance, it actually benefits others.
Absolutely. Remember that analogy with the two acrobats balancing on a pole? If one falls, they both go down.
Right, it's like our mental and emotional states are all interconnected.
They are. We're influencing each other all the time, whether we realize it or not.
It's like you got to put on your own oxygen mask first before helping anyone else.
That's a great analogy. When we're all caught up in our own reactivity, our negativity, it's like this ripple effect, spreading all that stress and suffering to everyone around us.
Yeah, it's true. Hurt people, as they say.
Exactly. But the opposite is also true. When your mind is calm and balanced, it radiates peace and kindness. It can have a calming effect on everyone around you.
So we can actually be like agents of peace and healing just by working on our own inner stability.
Yes, healed people heal people.
Wow, I love that. So, where does all this lead?
Well, the text describes the qualities of a fully awakened being, someone who has reached that ultimate level of mastery.
Okay.
And one of those qualities is being totally unfazed by whether people accept or reject their teachings.
Wow, that's some serious equanimity. It's like saying, here's this wisdom, take it or leave it, I'm good either way.
Exactly. It points to a level of inner peace that's totally independent of outside circumstances. It really challenges that idea that Buddhism is about withdrawing from the world.
Yeah, it seems like the opposite, really. By cultivating this inner peace, this wisdom, we become even more capable of engaging with the world in a skillful and compassionate way.
Beautifully said. And it all starts with these, seemingly simple practices, paying attention, becoming aware, and understanding the true nature of reality.
Well, deep divers, it looks like we've reached the end of our exploration of Satipatthana. And I have to say, this has been an incredible journey.
It has. It's been a real pleasure to share these teachings.
I know, I'm leaving feeling really inspired to, put these practices into action in my own life.
Me too. And remember, even a little effort can go a long way, so why not give it a try?
You never know what transformations might be waiting for you. Until next time, deep divers, keep exploring, keep practicing, and may your journey be full of peace, wisdom, and of course, unshakable equanimity.
See you next time.